And welcome to Capital Talk, a program we hope will have an impact on the future of Kenya. And now, more than ever, I'm Jeff Koinange. Now, following that revealing interview with the mayor of Nairobi, we're going to go back to our theme of the week, which is the African Women Economic Summit. But my guest today has something to do with the city of Nairobi and that mayoral position because she was shortlisted. That's right, she was, and she wanted to be the mayor of this town. But somehow, some way, her name kind of disappeared from the list of aspirants. We'll never know why, but she has her thoughts. You know her better. Everyone knows her around town as Mama Supu. That's right, the woman who's determined to light up the city of Nairobi with her Adopt a Light program. These days, because that particular company is in court, the city is looking kind of dark. But she's determined, she says, the city will be lit up by Adopt a Light one day. She's still aspiring in one way or another. She's still the woman about town. Mama Supu, Esther Passaris, on the bench.
Hi, Jack.
Who called you Mama Supu? Who was it?
I don't know. I think it was one of the MPs. It definitely wasn't Timama because he had a hard time pronouncing it. But it was one of the MPs during a rally.
Yeah.
Must have been that Sumra, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it stuck. And I walk sometimes and I hear, that's Esther Passaris, that's Passaris, or that's Supu. So I've kind of adopted it.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Esther, aren't you glad you didn't become mayor of Nairobi after what we've seen in recent days?
Do you know, it's not just recent days. For as long as we can remember, right? Nairobi City Council or City Council of Nairobi, if we have to go by their legal name, which has caused me a lot of problems. But it's always had a problem. And why has it had a problem? Somewhere along the line, we let the institution collapse. We let corrupt people go in and basically steal. And they stole in every department and they squandered the public resources. They allocated themselves all the public land. And it's been going on forever. And it's become the way we do things at City Hall. And I'm glad that I didn't become mayor because I realize that you cannot change the council or reform the council without changing the laws. You have to change the laws. You have to have a mayor that's empowered, you know, and the way the structures are right now, the mayor is not empowered.
Yeah.
And basically doesn't stop him from being part and parcel of the wrong. You know, it's like a gravy train. You get on board and you make what you can make because you become a leader in the local authorities to aspire to go to parliament. And so you need to make the money or you need to recoup your investments for elections. So the problem at City Hall, in my opinion, is it's deeply rooted, it's controlled, it's managed, and the only way to eradicate that is stronger institutions. Not just the council, because the council, you can have a strong institution in the council, but then if you have a weak anti-corruption or a weak judicial process, then when they do something wrong, there's no checks and balances.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I mean, 200 or 325 million shillings was stolen for land that was valued at 24 million shillings. There is no land, there is no money. It's all gone in the hands of these people who are still there. Nobody's been arrested, nothing's been done. Typical Kenyan attitude.
Let me tell you what, and I don't think anything will be done, you know, and this is the sad part. What have we done about Goldenberg? What have we done about Anglo Leasing? What have we done about Triton, the May scandal? This is just another scandal that will just find its way out. You know, the mayor's chain. I mean, how many scandals do we know of that don't get resolved? How many murders do we know of that don't get resolved? I think the citizens of this country are going to have to really exercise their right to vote and bring change independently of media influence, independently of tribal influence or partisan influence. We've got to actually start thinking as Kenyans, where are we taking this country? Because our vote determines that. Okay, it didn't. I don't believe that the last 3 or 4 elections have been fair or the people's rights have been exercised, because we're seeing from the counting of the votes, I mean, that there was obvious structural problems. You know, we don't manage things properly.
No.
I feel the 224 million or whatever the money was, it's not about the money, okay? It's about the ability to do that and get away with it. That's what hurts me. And then also media. I think media should also be controlled. There is no way that parcel of land is worth 24 million. I mean 24, did you say 24 million?
It was valued at 24 million, but they paid 325 for it.
Do you know, let me tell you something. Land's office, every time you transact on a property, has a valuation. Had they seen that, they would have picked it. Because what is the stamp duty? Do you know, there is so much wrong everywhere, and that's what's sad. Yeah. You know, if there was one institution that functioned in this whole transaction, whether it's lands, whether it's procurement at City Hall, whether it's the valuation department at City Hall, whether it's the principles of the people, whether it's the anti-corruption. Because I mean, watching your mayor on the bench yesterday, and him saying that, you know, they broke into my house, they took documents, they cannot pin this 11 million, the alleged 11 million to me. I'm thinking it would be, for me, an absolute shame if the anti-corruption were actually being influenced by PNU wanting to do in ODM. I mean, it has to stop. Yeah. This country is about to go into an election in another 2.5 years. We don't want these fights. Can we focus on what is right for this country? Even when it comes to the Constitution, you know, I watched Mutula Kilonzo on your show yesterday as well. It's really about the Constitution, not about PNU, not about who wants to be president in the next 2 terms. It's about the country. Yeah. A constitution is supposed to serve a country. Let's do what is right for Kenya. And we still haven't got it. Our leaders are still very immature.
I'm going to get to the constitution in a moment, Esther, but at the same time, if you had been mayor and you really wanted to be mayor at one point, remember you kept saying, I really want to change things, you would have been smack in the middle of all this because, like you said, the rot is in there and you would have been sucked in.
Let me tell you something. Unlike the current mayor, there is no way that I would have appended my signature on a document just because I am a rubber stamp. I'm sorry. If I am the mayor of Nairobi and I am buying grave sites for my citizens, I will have visited the place. I will have got different opinions, you know, expert opinions. And I think I would actually not start with looking for a land in Mavoko, is it? Yeah. I would actually try and recover all the land in Langata that was stolen, that was part of the cemetery. There are cases that are pending. The Langata cemetery had enough land, but we know it's been stolen. It's been carved out, it's been sold. So really, I think it's not a question of not planning, it's a question of allowing public assets to be stolen. The cemetery of Langata had adequate space to last us another 20 years.
Okay, in the new constitution, if it passes, and we're all crossing our fingers hoping it does pass, the mayor of Nairobi will be voted in, elected by the people. Not councillors, not internal politics, whatever, by the people. Would you run then? Would you consider?
Do you know, my political experience has not been right. I'll tell you what, I will only run for an elective post in this country when I know, without any doubt, that the institution that will conduct that election is credible. So I think the challenge will lie in the institution because I think it's terrible. It's not just about me losing. When I go into Embakasi, it's about the people being losing their rights, you know. I mean, I lost a lot of money, maybe my pride was bruised a little bit, but what about the people that have lacked a leader? I mean, there is just so much wrong going on in Embakasi. Now, I don't want to put the people through that giving them that hope and then falling back because an institution is weak. I really hope that the people that have been entrusted with getting our electoral processes right will do the right thing. It is my sincere prayer. We need strong institutions. It's the solution to Kenya's problems.
Yeah. Are you optimistic about this revised, harmonized draft, Esther? Are you? Because I know there's a clause in there, abortion, that's going to be a sticking point. It's going to be a thorn in the flesh.
Can I tell you what? The Constitution has become a money minting facility for a lot of people. If we don't get a constitution now, again in another few years, we're going to be spending those billions. I'll tell you what, the taxpayers in foreign countries that fund this process are fed up. All right? We will never have a constitution. There are a lot of good things in this constitution. And I feel that as the MPs are deliberating and as it comes to the referendum, I urge Kenyans, let's accept it so that we can stop squandering money that can be put to other users. We have spent so much money on this constitution. We need to get on with our lives. This carrot that they keep dangling, that's so important. I believe that even if it's not 100% of what we want, if it's 80% of what we want, let's go with it. When we get leaders that actually understand the country is bigger than them, we can make the 20% adjustment. But let's not give them another 4 billion next year to spend on this process that's been going on forever. It's time to put a seal to the constitution. Let's get a constitution, let's understand it, let's live it, and then let's amend it. It's not cast in stone. We can change it. Let's just not give these leaders more money to waste in the future, and let's not give them something to divide us and a hope that we don't even know whether it's going to deliver what it is that we think we're going to get from a new constitution.
Yeah. Abortion.
Well, I sincerely believe that life does begin at conception, but I am for abortion. I believe that if a woman was raped and she already has to deal with the trauma of being raped, I don't think it's fair for us, me, you, to actually be part of that decision that she will have to make. If there is a moral to it, let her deal with her God when she wants to deal with him. At the moment, I don't think men should play God. Okay? God is there to judge us, and he is a God of love. If I was raped and I don't want to have this child, I think it is between me, my doctor, my family, all right?
Yeah.
It doesn't concern anyone else. As well as if there's a medical risk. Let's just say I've been diagnosed with cancer and I am pregnant and I have to go through chemo. We know that the two can't go together. The doctor should be able to give me the right to an abortion. Let's say I have 7 children. I can't even feed my 7 children, and because fertility, anti-pregnancy drugs or treatments failed because they're all 99%, and I got pregnant, all right, and I'm probably 50 and I can't handle another child, I should have a right to abort. I believe that is an individual woman's right. The Catholic Church, and I am a Catholic, is totally against abortion, and I feel that what structures have they put in place? It's good to say no abortion, but when that woman has that child and is having all the emotional trauma, is having all the financial expense, wants to give it up for adoption, where is the Catholic Church? Create the structures to back what it is you say you believe. Show me that we will take you through this pregnancy, we will cover all the costs because the Catholic Church can afford to do all this. We will also house you, and we will take your child, we will place the child for adoption, or we will provide whatever the child needs to become a useful citizen of society. What do we want? Another drug addict on the road, or another messed up criminal?
Okay.
Let me tell you what, if we legalize abortion and we put right structures in place, tribunals that you can go and present your case, doctors can go and seek approval, we are better off than having children who are gay. We know that our kids are having sex at a very young age in Kenya and they're getting pregnant. At the end of the day, they're going to the back street. What is the cost to our government for that back street? What is the cost to that young girl who goes to a back street doctor, gets a hanger put in her, all right?
Yeah.
And then everything of hers is ruined and she probably loses her life. Let's get real. Let's move with the times.
I want to play devil's advocate there, and I'll do that after the break. But I guess the argument is, what if that aborted fetus is the next Usain Bolt or the next McDonald Mariga, or the next big star? How do we know it's not? Why do we destroy something? I guess that's what those critics are saying, but we'll talk about that after the break. And also, adopt a light. What's the latest? City's pretty dark. People are getting mugged, killed up and down the city. What's the latest? No one else has taken it up from where you left off, so how are you going to bring it back on? How are we going to adopt this light? First, let's take a break. Mama Supu is souping up the bench. I tell you, that's what it is. That's what we talk about. There's a huge women's conference, which I want to talk about as well later on this week at the Windsor Hotel. Esther Passaris is going to be part of that. Right now, she's a part of this city. She would still like to run for office. I know she would. Would she do a better job than our present mayor? You make the call as we take a break, because Capital Talk We'll be back in a moment. And welcome back to Capital Talk. All this week, it's all about the women. Even though we took a break with the mayor yesterday, we're back with the women because there is an important African Women's Economic Summit taking part at the Windsor this coming weekend, beginning Friday. And among the guests, Graça Machel, the only woman on the continent to have been married to 2 former presidents. She'll be on the bench as well later on in this week. But right now, woman known only as Mama Supu tried to run for office as mayor in this town. Somehow her name disappeared, but she never gives up. She's always out there because she has the city and the country at heart. Esther Passaris. Devil's advocate, I was saying earlier on before the break, Esther, what if that destroyed that aborted fetus?
Let me tell you, stop being so hypocritical. You included. Do you know what? What if all those children in the slums today that are subjected to drugs and abuse, like that little boy that you had in your show yesterday, that was sodomized at 2, all right? And the government has not even arrested the boy that did it. Let me ask you something. What if that little boy, who is already alive, all right, is supposed to be the next president? Okay? What kind of platform are you setting for him? We have so many children in this country and in Africa and in the world that are not reaching or realizing their potential because we have not created the structures. Do you know, if we strengthen our structures, all right, including the one that allows you to have abortion, and we are running them with integrity, right, we will save whatever it is that you purport to save by that fetus that you want to give life to. I'm telling you that a woman who has been raped, right, is not going to rear a child well if she is not ready for it. You cannot decide by the stroke of a pen that this woman should have that child, okay? And then you make that decision and you make it today. But what if tomorrow, Jeff, what if it's tomorrow, it's your daughter, all right, that has been raped at 13, okay? She has to have this child, but you know what? She will die because she's not developed enough to push that child. How many women do we know, children that have given birth and died during that process? Go to Kenyatta, all right, because they're not developed to have the child. We need to allow abortion because there are going to be cases and situations that will demand, right, that you do it out of humanity, care and concern for that citizen. Why should that fetus be more important than me or that 13-year-old child or that 50-year-old woman or that mama boga who cannot afford to be pregnant? Where's the backup? Nobody can even afford to treat malaria today. You want me now to have a child when I can't afford to feed the ones that I have at home?
So how come you're the only one? How come so few women are being vocal about this? Because no one is voicing this concern, this particular angle, this particular...
Because it's not their problem. For them, it's moving with the flow. The flow says it's wrong, and you don't want to be right when everybody says it's wrong. I would rather be honest to myself. If my daughter were pregnant at 14 and I would not want her to have the child, and I'll tell you what, I have the option. I could fly to another country where it's legal and do it. But how many of the Kenyan women in the village can do that? Listen, bags and bags of fetuses. Go to Dandora slum. They're there.
Every day.
Every day. Let's put an end to this hypocrisy. And if we really want to create more useful citizens, then let's start with the ones that are already existing. Let's not add more. I mean, you go to the slums, you got little kids that don't even go to school, don't even have clothes, have no self-esteem, play around sewer, have no houses to live. One little rain comes and they're washed away. You know, fires where children are being burnt because Kenya Power has electrical faults and they can never get justice. I mean, there is so much pain in this country. Let's not add to it.
We need you in office, Esther. We need you running for something because people have completely, gone underground. Now nobody's speaking up anymore. Why? Are we just so lackadaisical? Have we just lost direction and vision all of a sudden?
I think people are exhausted. You know, I mean, we've been independent for what, 44 years? We're exhausted. People are exhausted. And then also, you know, while you're trying to bring this change, you also have to continue living. I mean, I have to, while I'm thinking about Embakasi, I still have to be mummy, I still have to be a daughter to my parents, including my 94-year-old grandmother. I mean, life, time is running out, and it's running out even for us to make those changes. And it's sad, and we keep saying we have to leave it to the future generation. The future generation is also not happy, you know. So we've got to find a way to restore hope. We need an Obama situation here in this country, but we also need to accept that if somebody does come out and say, I can lead you, let's not be partisan, let's not be tribal, let's not be gender. Let's give whoever can spell hope a chance, because what else have we got to rely on? You know, I always, you know, whenever I think about everybody who's running for president, 2012, it's either Kalonzo, it's either Raila, it's either, okay, Balala comes in once in a while, it's Ruto, it's Uhuru. Hell, why can't it be somebody completely new?
It's the usual
You know,
suspects.
I mean, you know, maybe a clean sweep, so that we can actually see change. I mean, there are things that our leaders are doing that are good, but there's also a lot of unanswered questions. You know, I mean, how much? I'll tell you what. When we had the situation of Ongeri and Ruto step down, you know, and the Prime Minister was all for it, you know. I wish that happened, and I wish that if that had happened, right now with Musalia being asked to step down, then he would also say, yes, go. We need to have a situation where people are willing to stay out of office. If you're innocent, then you'll come back. But this whole idea of clinging to power by any means possible is a bit ridiculous, you know?
Let's switch gears, because this is getting pretty depressing. The Women's Economic Summit later this week. Are you excited to be part of it? Is this going to be a great grouping of women?
Oh, you know, I'm excited, but I'm also angry that both these two beautiful summits happening in our country are at the same time. I mean, it's like splitting myself. Which one do I want to belong to? I mean, I'm a woman, I want to be there, but I also want to hear what the African leaders have to say about where we're taking Africa. It's fantastic. The best part is recognizing the woman as a huge basket of economic empowerment. The money, you know, I mean, I was reading the brief, and basically it's talking about the amount of money that is being generated by women is so much. And the beautiful part about it is that women make intelligent decisions when it comes to spending. Women are great savers. So for the development of any country, you need savings that can facilitate lending. And I believe it's fantastic that they've recognized this aspect of women, because there's a time it was just youth, and you kind of wonder, you know, youth, for some unknown reason, youth is supposed to involve women and men, but we only think of youth in terms of men. So it's women, it's like a different bracket altogether. And I believe that happening in Kenya, I'm happy, because then of course there's tourism, and then there's empowerment, and it also puts us in good light. It's long overdue. We are still finding it very difficult to get money from banks for big business, because it requires, again, title deeds, it requires cash deposits to fund it. We don't bank on ideas, we don't support ideas. And you know, you've got the likes of Equity and Family going for the mama mboga. Come on, for how long are women going to do mama mboga? Why can't I be given a loan of $1 billion or $2 billion, right, with the government endorsement of an IMF funding to do a power project? You know, I mean, you get the experts and you manage it. The thing is, we're still thinking of women in that secretarial place. We still haven't accepted that the woman has arrived. She has led countries in different parts of the world, including the Muslim world. She is powerful, and she is the one that holds the family unit together. There's no man that holds that family unit together. I mean, I went through school, and though my father was concerned about my academic performance, probably, it was my mother that gave me my grounding. It is my mother that has set all the standards that I have, you know, and I look at my own children. I mean, fine, they have their father, but I am the one that is mommy and daddy. And it's not because we're not married, it's just the way it is. how many situations do you have where even where there's a married couple, the father is playing a key role in the children? He only shows up for the claps, you know. That's my daughter, that's my son, but he doesn't know what it took to get that child where that child is today.
Yeah, have you been talking to my wife? Before we end this, Esther, Adopt a Light, yes. What's the latest with it? Because I know you're still in court.
Well, I tell you what, we're in court, and funny enough, the judiciary is already a very, very slow and tedious process, but the judiciary is also, unfortunately, partisan, tribal, manipulated, and it's said that it's allowed itself to be used, misused, and abused to deter justice. And I don't tire. You know, I mean, one day I'm going to write one fantastic book, and it's going to make John Githongo's book be like nothing, you know. Yesterday I went to the Chief Justice's office and I wrote a letter, and I said, first of all, they don't reply letters, these guys. You know, I really wonder, you know, what's the point? But I keep writing to them. And I'm saying I want an early date for my case, because I've been sent to the Court of Appeal, and I've been stuck at the Court of Appeal, and I've been told that I'll be heard in 4 years. In 4 years, there might not be an Adopt a Light. But, you know, I believe that there's divine power. Adopt a Light, you know, in December when I paid the salaries at Adopt a Light, there's a part of me that just went down on my knees and said, you know what, God, thanks. And I know that Adopt a Light will be in the stock exchange one day.
But is this still happening? Are you still adopting a light?
We are. I'll tell you what is so sad. We can put signs up.
Can or cannot?
We can, but they've taken almost all the streets that we had, which is going to cost the taxpayer a lot of money. Because right now, I wrote to the local government committee, and I said, excuse me, the city council, as at today's date, owes Adopt a Light 1.2 billion. Can we put an end to this? Because this money will be paid. This story that we are not Nairobi City Council, we are City Council of Nairobi, you signed with Nairobi City Council, it's ridiculous. This story that what we did was illegal, and yet, while they're saying that, they go and do exactly the same thing with ENG for benches. So, you know, it's only illegal because Esther Passaris is vocal, too vocal about corruption. Esther Passaris joined ODM. Hell, what's a Kikuyu doing in ODM? We need to punish her. You know, I am not somebody that they will back because I don't speak their language. Let me tell you, Jeff, if I sat down with a few Mheshimiwas and I said, you know what, 1.2 billion, let's share it, let's make it right for me.
Let's buy a cemetery.
You know, they will do it. But you know what? I've been told by so many people, this is Kenya. Esther, deal. Part with some of Adopt a Light. Make it work for you. And I have said no. Do you know, Jeff, I would rather lose Adopt a Light and keep my integrity because it is worth so much. When you call me to the bench, it's because of who I am and what I stand for. When I walk the streets and people say that's Esther Passaris, it means something. And I wish our leaders would try and get that. I'm leaving a legacy of being a woman that stood for what is right. And I am so proud of myself. I'm so proud that I had the strength and the backup from my family and my friends to be not corrupt, because it's so easy to be corrupt. I'm telling you, it's so easy to be corrupt. It is so hard not to be corrupt in Kenya. But I have registered a trademark act against corruption together. And I'm going to launch a huge campaign because I want to find the people that can comfortably say, I am not corrupt. And say it with the confidence and might and the belief that you're not corrupt.
Keep fighting, Esther. Keep fighting. And keep that integrity as well.
Yes, thank you.
Mama Supu. Well done.
Thanks.
Great to see you on the bench. Oh, Mama Supu. Souping up the bench. I tell you, Esther's speaking from the heart. At the end of the day, she is so right. And so many people would love to say what Esther has just said, but they simply can't. She speaks from the heart. She calls it like she sees it. And this is what we mean when we talk about the future of Kenya. Women at the forefront, leading from the front. And that women's conference later this week at the Windsor, it's all about women gaining finance, gaining that accessibility to move their countries and the continent forward. What a guest, what a show. What a week is turning out to be on the bench. You simply cannot find these kinds of guests anywhere else. Right here on the bench, on the award-winning station, K24. where as always, we are, even in Supu land, all Kenyan.
All the time.
Capital Talk is recorded at the Fairview Hotel, the country hotel in town.